the true and the beautiful, with the simple truth of Jesus Christ and His holy Catholic Church through Scripture, tradition, and the Catechism. And now, your host, Jim Havens.
It is great to be back with you on The Simple Truth, where we proclaim the life-giving reality of Jesus and His Catholic Church. We consecrate everything to the Sacred Heart of Jesus through the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the pure, strong heart of Saint Joseph. It is Wholeness and Healing Monday, fighting to cultivate the health of the whole person, mind, body, and soul. With our co-host every Monday, my lovely wife, Becky Havens. Becky is the author of Toxin Free in 12 Months, a 12-month guide to help you transition over to a toxin-free lifestyle. She also wrote a boycott list of over 300 pro-abortion companies. You can get both resources for free and learn more at her website, safehavensmama.com. Becky, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Always a blessing to be on here. And many of our conversations in life are now spilling over into this show, which is very interesting. That's where we get our topic today, really on some conversations that we had over the past week. So our topic today, what to do when doctors don't know. What happens when you have symptoms but can't get to a diagnosis? And so again, a disclaimer, it's always good to put forth when we're talking about these things, is that we're not doctors. We're just regular people looking to live well and raise our family. We believe in objective truth, in asking questions when things do not make sense. We want to offer a forum here today for all of that. And there is a lot we do know, and still a whole lot that we don't know. We do have some personal experiences, as do you. We would love to hear from you on this topic, what to do when doctors don't know, symptoms with no diagnosis. We'll put the phone number out in just a little bit. But Becky, why don't you share a little bit? How did we come up with this topic for today?
Sure. So I think, as we explore the topics for the show, a lot of times like you said, it's based on life experience. And I know for me personally, I've struggled to find answers from my doctors. A lot of times they can be dismissive, and I think that's mainly because they're not sure what direction to point you in. And we go to the doctor looking for answers, and if they don't have one, it's very frustrating, and we almost feel like maybe I'm crazy. Maybe this is not really something worth looking into. But then we realize, if it's interfering with our daily life. And so for me personally, I started to seek out, and I think this is what most people do, is you start going online, you start researching your symptoms and natural remedies, because there's no medicine out there that seems to be there to help. And for me, I went down that route, and then eventually I kind of got to a standstill and realized I need a little bit more help. And the doctors were giving me no answers. For me personally, it was more like hormone health and difficulties with secondary infertility and certain symptoms that just didn't feel like they were normal. And I learned a lot on my own, and it was really helpful. The information I found online, I think there's so much on there. Then like I said, you get to a standstill, and it's like I need a push. I need something further. I need somebody to help me through this, because it's getting to the point where I'm not sure where to go. And so that's where a functional practitioner would come into play, and they can direct you. They can help you with different kind of tests. And in my case, I was able to work with a practitioner that we have as our guest on today's show. And it was night and day difference from me working with a doctor. And it was very one-on-one, and it was like somebody understands, like, I'm not crazy. This is really happening, and there's answers out there. And for the first time, I felt like there's something now I can do, and somewhere I can go with this. And I've been working with her for at least 4 or 5 months, and have seen huge changes. There's a lot farther to go, but for me, it was like, okay, like this is, my traditional doctor is just not going to always give me the answers I need, and we need other options. And I think this is where this comes into play. And I mean, I would recommend everybody trying to go this route, especially if you're struggling to get to the root of the issue. And that's really what they can help you find. And I think that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And we put out a survey earlier today via email. If you want to get on our email list, just go to thestationofthecross.com, go to the Simple Truth, scroll down, put your email in there. You'll be on this survey list that we send out every Monday. And so on that survey, we asked, have you ever had symptoms that your doctor can't get to the bottom of? 75% of people said yes. When we asked, what did you do? We heard the most popular answer, researched on my own, researched until I found out by myself, kept researching and sometimes found the answer. So trying to figure it out on our own is often what people go to. And we also asked this, how much do you trust medical doctors on a scale of 1 to 10? Maybe we'll come back to that one in a little bit. We'll leave that hanging for now. But on this question, have you ever heard of functional medicine? About 60% said yes. Now, this is a question I want to take a moment on because to me, this is where a lot of our topic for today comes out of. In conversations over the past week, Becky, you brought this up to me. You said, have you ever heard of functional medicine? And I had no idea what that was. Now, when I looked into it, it was very much along the lines of what I already think about medicine and about disease and about health of the body and all of this. And I never knew there was a category called functional medicine. And I never knew that that this category existed and that it was well thought of even in the medical industry itself. I happened to, when I looked it up, first of all, this is the difference. It says conventional medicine, functional medicine, symptoms-based treatment, functional medicine treats underlying root, conventional medicine, doctor-centered, functional medicine, patient-centered, conventional medicine, all receive the same treatment, functional medicine, customized, holistic approach. And so then I noticed that it was actually the Cleveland Clinic on their website. They've got a great rundown of what is functional medicine. They say our functional medicine team uses a holistic approach to treat chronic disease with a focus on nutrition, lead a healthier life from the inside out. It goes on to say a bunch more about it, including that the foundation of functional medicine is to use the use of food as a first line therapy. It says in 2014, Cleveland Clinic was the first academic medical center in the country to establish a dedicated functional medicine program. So this caught my attention. Yeah, I didn't know that this was a category, a lane that existed that was even well thought of in medical terms. It seems like this is going in the right direction, that even some in the medical industry are picking up on this and saying, hey, maybe there's a better way to do this. Because I think for so many of us, our experience with various doctors has been that if you don't fit into the box that they have in their minds, then they don't really know what to do with it, and they don't really have time to dig in deeper. They're already overworked, seeing so many people. And so basically they're looking for, do you fit these boxes that I already have set up, that I know this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do. And if you don't, then I don't know what to do, and I don't really have time to go there. Maybe I can refer you out to a specialist and you can try down that road, but you might meet the same sort of dead end with that. And I know many of us have had that as well. So a lot there. Becky, anything further that you want to say about functional medicine?
Yeah, so I think why this came up is because I had a lot of times you get blood work done and everything comes back in the normal limits. I mean, these ranges are quite broad, so you don't actually know if the blood work, what the blood work is saying, but if it's within the limits that the medical community is putting out, then you're totally fine. You're healthy. There's nothing wrong. And I think that was my struggle. It's like, okay, things might look good on paper, but something's not right here. Something's not working. Like I should be, this should be going the way God intended, and it's not. And I feel like it's broken, and I need some help. And so I sought out a test called, I think there's an abbreviation for it, but it's a hair mineral analysis test. And I think, Jim, when I kind of told you about it, you thought it was some kind of like weird, witch doctor medicine. And it's so not. It really is so intriguing because and there's a whole science behind it. And, Leah maybe can get into that. And I think it's really amazing and a great place to go when your blood work looks good or normal, but something's off, and it can, you really need specialized training in order to be able to read these. And so, she puts out a 20-minute video, and I said, will you watch this with me, because I want you to see what she's saying and understand, like, this is whatever, all that she's saying is like lining up. And Jim was kind of like, sounds like maybe a psychic, this is what a psychic would say. And he's skeptical about most things when you bring it forth, which is good. You don't want to just believe everything you hear, but seeing the science behind it and understanding, I'm like, this is not like she's telling my fortune. What's coming off of this test is actually exactly the symptoms I'm having. And so that was very reassuring, like, okay, now we can go from here, and there's hope and healing in this way. And so I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, Jim. But it's funny because it does sound a little bit crazy at first, because we're not used to that type of medicine. We're used to go to the doctor, you go get your blood work done, and then they start analyzing it, and if it's good, then you're good. And it's like, no, I don't think that's how the human body works. So
yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, and I'm sorry if I came off that way. It wasn't my intent. Certainly, I was just trying to ask questions and start with skepticism and be open to the evidence and all of that. And the evidence lined up when I looked at what functional medicine is. What's interesting to me is that I don't consider myself a super medical person, especially my experience with doctors hasn't been incredibly positive. And yet, you know what it was that made me say, hey, there's more to this than I thought, was seeing that the Cleveland Clinic, a medical clinic, was talking about functional medicine, and they laid it out. And it's like, this medical clinic is even saying that this is good. Not that I'm super into what medical clinics are saying, but yet something about that clicked and said, if even they're saying that the evidence is there for this is something to really look into. We're going to be right back with a special guest. Stay tuned.
This is Franciscan Media's Saint of the Day for May 22nd. Today we celebrate Saint Rita of Cascia. The life of Saint Rita would make a gripping made-for-TV movie. Born in Italy in 1377, Rita learned early that her elderly parents had firm ideas about what she should do with her life. They made arrangements for her to marry, despite her strongly expressed desire to become a nun. Their choice proved disastrous. The husband they found for her was abusive and unfaithful, but Rita struggled to keep the family together and concentrated on raising her 2 sons. After 18 years of unhappy married life, Rita's husband was killed in a brawl. A short time later, both sons died. Though deeply pained by the series of losses, Rita was now free to turn to the religious life. She was rejected 3 times by the local group of Augustinian sisters, who only permitted virgins in their community. But finally, the Augustinians welcomed her. Often meditating on the Passion of Christ, Rita suffered what seemed to be a thorn-like wound on her forehead. She died from tuberculosis at age 80 and was canonized in 1900. St. Rita is considered the patron of difficult cases, especially those connected with marriage. There's more about the saints, along with inspiration and Catholic resources, at our website, saintoftheday.org. From Franciscan Media, this has been Saint of the Day.
Are you ready to take on the world of flesh and the devil with just the facts? This is Jesse Romero, host of Jesus 911, heard weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm joined each day by a variety of co-hosts like Ruben Nava, Paul Clay, Dan Schneider, and my amazing wife, Anita Romero. We tackle Catholic devotions, spiritual warfare, family life, saving America, and everything in between. Join us each weekday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific for Jesus 911. God bless you. Keep the faith.
The Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here. Wholeness and Healing Monday, fighting to cultivate the health of the whole person, mind, body, and soul. Our topic today, what to do when doctors don't know. Symptoms with no diagnosis. If you want to call in on this topic, any questions or comments, 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. And we've got some great help today to answer any questions that you might have or respond to any comments. And that is Leah Brueggemann. She is a Catholic wife and mother, as well as a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner specializing in hormonal balance for women. You can learn more by going to leahbrueggemann.com. That's Leah, BRUEGGEMANN.com. Leah, thank you so much for being with us today. How are you?
Thanks so much for having me. I'm doing very well.
Outstanding. All right. Well, start us off. Share a little of your story. How did you become a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner?
Yeah, so I actually was diagnosed with fibroadenomas, which are benign breast tumors, right out of college. And I, up until this point, was your typical college person. I lived off of Starbucks and Skittles and not sleeping well and just, living a typical college life at that point in terms of taking care of myself in a health component. And so when I was diagnosed with fibroadenomas, that was my wake-up call. And I personally decided not to have them surgically removed because they most of the time come back. And so I started the route of looking into holistic health. Now, thankfully, I knew that was a route thanks to my mom, but I didn't know that much about it at that time. And so I had hopped all around, to different doctors and just trying to figure out what was going on. And everyone just wanted to treat my fibroadenomas as if it was just an isolated event all by itself instead of looking at my health as a whole. And so I made no progress. And so that is when I started to look into more of the functional world and started learning more myself and was like, okay, I need to start just nourishing my body and building my body up, my health from the ground up, instead of trying to treat all of these random things, my fibroadenomas or my painful periods or whatever it is. I need to look at how it's all connected. And that's how I got into the functional world. And, fast forward, I became a certified functional practitioner and I completely got rid of my fibroadenomas naturally. I was able to raise my progesterone, completely painless periods. And I was able to have 2 healthy baby boys so far, which was incredible because up until this point, my progesterone was so clinically low that I would have never been able to carry a pregnancy. So I'm so thankful for functional health for getting me here. And even though, getting, diagnosed with a benign breast tumor is not, the nicest thing in the world, it did get me here. So I am thankful for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, praise God. Yeah, what a blessing to be able to take something that is not a good thing and then turn it around and make such good out of it that now you're able to not only receive the blessings of what you have found for yourself, but you're also able to share them with others. Leah Brueggemann is with us again. Her website is leahbrueggemann.com. And we've got some questions that came in through the survey. But before we get to those, Becky, anything that you would like to ask Leah to start us off?
One thing that I noticed with Leah specifically, and I thought this was really awesome, was that, so I go into my OB/GYN for an appointment, and what do I see everywhere is literature on birth control pills, Plan B, everything. And it's like, I'm here so birth control, as Catholics and, everybody is, we obviously completely disagree with that. But from a health perspective as well, that's not helping anything. And so one thing that I really appreciate that Leah, really shares and is very knowledgeable about is helping women, come off of the birth control pill. And so, so that is, it's refreshing to know that that's so many women, Catholics included and Catholic doctors included, feel that putting people on birth control can help heal different things in your body when actually it's causing havoc. So Leah, I just kind of want you to touch on that a little bit on why it's important for women to know from all standpoints that birth control is definitely not the way to go.
Well, unfortunately, birth control is the first line of defense if you go to your doctor and you have hormonal issues. And I think there's multiple rules of thought as to why it's the, first line of defense. Some want to say it's lazy doctoring. And in some cases, I agree. But in a lot of cases, I think it's just lack of education and lack of knowledge. That's what they're taught. That's what doctors are taught. And they are sharing with you what they have learned. And birth control suppresses your natural cycle. Whether you are on the combo pill, you're on an IUD, you're on the copper IUD, it is going to be affecting your hormones. And I know the big pull for the copper IUD is, oh, it doesn't have any hormones in it. You're going to be completely fine. But copper makes estrogen more estrogenic. So you are indirectly still affecting your hormones. And it literally depletes you of necessary vitamins and minerals. And so it sets you up for this perfect storm. So if you already have a tendency towards an autoimmune disease, birth control is setting you up for that. You know, if you have painful periods, you have heavy periods, you have PMDD, you have PCOS, you are prescribed birth control. And instead of fixing these issues, this is just putting a Band-Aid on symptoms, in some cases, even making things worse. And then let's say you want to come off for whatever reason, all of those symptoms come raging back and typically are worse because you have just been suppressing what has been going on for so long and depleting yourself of necessary vitamins and minerals. And so therefore things are a lot worse when you come off. I think we just don't have an education about birth control. Birth control literally comes with a black box warning. And there has been studies showing that you actually are attracted to different people when you are on birth control because of the effect it has on your pheromones. So I think it's really important to just have an education about what is birth control. You know, it's a Band-Aid. It's like you have a gunshot wound and let me put a Band-Aid on it instead of taking the bullet out and fixing the gunshot wound. And so when you look at it in that aspect, I think we start to go, oh, okay, let me dig deeper. But it's very hard and very frustrating if there isn't any knowledge and education out there because you have a hormonal issue, you have really painful periods, you're bleeding through a tampon every single hour, you have debilitating period cramps, you're calling in sick to work, you're so moody, it's affecting your marriage, it's affecting you being a parent. You know, you go to your doctor, you want help, right? And you say, hey, I have all of these symptoms. And they go, okay, let me put you on birth control. And if you don't know any better, you're going to say, oh, okay, that's the solution. So I think a lot of it is just the lack of knowledge as to what birth control is actually doing to your cycle. When you're on hormonal birth control, your cycle much more resembles a woman in menopause. So that's, I mean, I think that should be a wake-up call for us all.
Yeah, Leah Brueggemann is with us, leahbrueggemann.com. And our topic today, what to do when doctors don't know, symptoms with no diagnosis. If you want to call in any comment or question today, 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. And Leah, when you know exactly what it is that you're talking about there, that's an example of one of the reasons why people have a hard time generally trusting medical doctors. And so when we ask the question to folks, how much do you trust medical doctors on a scale of 1 to 10? These were the types of answers we received: 6.5, 7, 0, 2, 3, maybe 5. Pre-COVID, I would give them an 8. Post-COVID, a 5, 1. So all over the place, but not very high, and some very, very low. I guess it's kind of tricky to think about how you would answer this based on the way you take the question. For me, though, I'd probably answer about a 5 with the sense that I don't think that doctors generally are being malicious or have ill intent. It just seems, though, that they lack the knowledge in many ways that they need to think a little bit more broadly about things. And I think the functional medicine category is one that's very, very helpful to say they are not thinking in this way. They're not necessarily thinking about how do we get to the roots of things and how do we help people to develop health and have strong healthy habits going in their lives. People aren't going to medical doctors when they are well and asking, how do I make sure I can maintain good health here? Or when they're just starting to maybe have a little bit of a symptom. Usually it's, they've got a big symptom. What am I going to do here? And usually it is some sort of a Band-Aid for the symptom rather than being able to go right after the root. But Leah, how would you answer this question? How much do you trust medical doctors on a scale of 1 to 10? And anything you can add to this for us?
So I think it depends on the topic, so if I had a broken arm or I needed a surgery, 10 out of 10, I'm going to a doctor, right? I need their help. And I think that is where we get confused when we're talking about doctors and what we are expecting from them. And so to just make this a very clear example, if you go to a hardware store and you try and buy a piano, you're going to be very frustrated with the salesperson because he can't sell you a piano. They don't carry pianos. They're not there. And so if we go to our conventional doctor and we have XYZ symptoms, but your labs are within normal range, they cannot help you. It's not like they don't want to. A lot of times running extra tests, they are tied by the red tape of insurance, right? They don't want to get sued. They don't want to get into fraud. And so their hands are tied there. And then secondly, they literally cannot help you. Because if you think about disease, you have really healthy people over here and you have diseased people over here. Most people fall right smack dab in the middle, right? You're not healthy. You don't feel really great, but you are not sick enough to get a diagnosis and to go on medication, right? So conventional doctors, they diagnose disease. That's what they deal with. They deal with medication, right? So if you are in the middle, you are not sick enough for a diagnosis, but you obviously are having a ton of symptoms. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gone to them. You don't need a medication, right? So they literally are going to tell you your labs are normal. And there is a very big difference between normal labs and optimal labs. You know, you do want to have those optimal ranges, but what you're going to the doctor for can be fixed with lifestyle, nutrition, maybe some targeted supplementation, figuring out what is going on below the surface, right? I think one of the most common ones that I see is, I can't lose weight. I'm really, really moody all the time. I'm really, really angry, or I have really painful periods. And so, a lot of times you're going to go to your doctor, you're going to ask for a hormone panel, and you're going to maybe ask for a thyroid panel, and they'll run maybe just TSH, which is not a full thyroid panel. And the numbers are normal. So of course they can't put you on a thyroid medication. So they're going to say, everything's normal, you're fine, even though you're dealing with all those symptoms. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. We're going to have more with Leah when we get back in the next segment. If you want to call in the meantime, would love to hear from you. 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. Talking about what to do when doctors don't know, symptoms with no diagnosis. Got a lot of great stuff that came in through the survey today. A lot of questions we'll get to. Here's one as far as natural remedies that you have found that work better for you than prescription medication. This is Anna in Columbia, Missouri. She says, not a prescription medication, but I was told to take a smaller dose of aspirin daily to prevent preeclampsia since I had it with my last pregnancy. Instead of that, I'm taking cayenne pepper, which does the same thing without the dangers of aspirin. So there's a little tip from Anna in Columbia, Missouri. Thank you for that, Anna. We're going to be right back on The Simple Truth. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Jim Havens, co-founder of the National Men's March to Abolish Abortion and Rally for Personhood. Some truths are self-evident, some rights are unalienable. It is a scientific fact that life begins at conception fertilization. It is a foundational moral truth that we ought not murder innocent human beings. Every human being is a human person with a right to life and the equal protection of law according to the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Yet we have an ongoing daily mass murder of our little preborn brothers and sisters. It's time for all men and women of goodwill to rise up together in the public square and say no more. Come join us in Albany, New York on Saturday, June 3rd. Men, let's go first and gather at 9 a.m. for the Men's March. Women, we need you to join us at 10:45 a.m. for the Rally for Personhood outside of the New York State Capitol. We'll have some great speakers along with terrific opportunities for formation and fellowship before and after. Go to themensmarch.com for all the details. See you in Albany.
Do you love listening to the Station of the Cross on your car radio, but sometimes find yourself driving outside the listening area? Never miss another minute of your favorite show. Download the iCatholic Radio app so you can listen anywhere in the world 24 hours a day. The iCatholic Radio app is available for your phone in the Apple Store or for your Android phone in Google Play. Visit thestationofthecross.com for more information.
Keep up to date with the shows we bring you each day on the Station of the Cross by viewing our programming grid on our website, thestationofthecross.com, and on our iCatholic Radio app. Just click the menu icon in the top left portion of our app and select the link to our programming grid. That's at thestationofthecross.com and on our free iCatholic Radio app for Android and Apple mobile devices.
Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here. Wholeness and Healing Monday, fighting to cultivate the health of the whole person, mind, body, and soul. Our topic today, what to do when doctors don't know. Symptoms with no diagnosis. What do you do? Give us a call. Any questions or comments? We've got a great guest with us, Leah Brueggemann. She is a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner specializing in hormonal balance for women. So if you have any questions along these lines, it'd be great to call in right now, 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. But let's get to some of the questions that we already did get. And by the way, Leah's website, leahbrueggemann.com, Leah, BRUEGGEMANN.com. All right, the questions from today, and Becky, I want you to take a first swing at this if there's anything you want to add to this, and then we'll have Leah comment. And this came in from a couple different places, I guess. One was Mary Kate in Woodstock, Georgia. She put it this way. She said, even with health shares, how can the average family afford the cost, I guess, in terms of functional medicine? She says, in my area, the initial visit is $850 cash per person, and that doesn't include supplements. We can't even afford for one of us to embark on that journey. Another listener wrote, how can one afford to go to a functional doctor when insurance won't cover the costs or tests? Becky, anything you want to speak to that? And then Leah, your comments.
Yeah, I know this was a struggle for us. And I remember kind of talking with Leah and saying like, okay, I know like what I need, but I need to figure out how I can work through this. And so sadly, and she might know more about this, but the medical industry is not really helping us to afford other options other than, what our doctor's going to give. Now, we don't even have insurance. We go through something else. So it didn't really matter to me as much as we pay for a lot of things, in our pocket. But I think this is a struggle. It can be overcome. I would say for myself, it was a matter of just, do I want to keep struggling with this, or do I want to just get to the bottom of it? It's not like the practitioner's trying to be greedy and I want to take all your money. And it literally is, these tests cost money. The tests that you're not going to get from your doctor, you have to send them out. There's a few different places, and Leah's very knowledgeable in this. It just costs money. It's different. And so I think that's a difficulty for many people. So Leah, if you want to kind of address where people can go from here if they want to pursue that route.
That's such a tricky question. I agree, because our insurance doesn't cover, what you need. But on the right side of that, functional health is not tied by insurance. So, for a lot of people, if they do have HSA or FSA, I know a lot of functional practitioners, myself included, do accept that. But something to really kind of, keep in mind is, saving for something is definitely worth it, because like when I run a lab, like when I ran Becky's hair lab, I spent not 20 minutes looking at that lab. I spent a couple hours looking at that and correlating that with, all of her paperwork and her past medical history, and putting together a protocol based off of her history and what she is currently, doing with her lifestyle, and, so that she can see the best results, and not just looking at that for 20 minutes. So you definitely get a much rounder picture of your health. And obviously, yes, when the labs aren't covered by insurance, they do cost money, and you're paying for that. And you're also paying for that practitioner's time to analyze your lab and figure out what's going on with you. And it's tricky and it's frustrating. So the best thing that I can say is, there's a lot of resources out there that are free that you can start with, and building those foundations. Like, I have a podcast. There's a lot of practitioners out there that do have podcasts. That's a great place to start. And then literally just start implementing what you're learning from them and save up to get there. Because what you are doing now, spending money on random supplements, it adds up really, really fast. If you're just trying every supplement under the planet that you see someone try, you have this cabinet full of supplements that gets very expensive very fast. They aren't working and it adds up, and you still don't have the results that you want. So instead, if you are, implementing free content that's out there while you save up, your time of healing is shortened. So, instead of it taking years and years and years, that time frame can shorten by a ton. And then on top of that, you're saving a lot of money actually in the long run because you have a very targeted protocol versus just trying random things.
All right, Leah, thank you for that. Now, this question from Stephen in Torrance, California, I have to admit, I have no idea what it means. So I'm hoping, Leah, that it's going to make sense to you. This is what Stephen asks. He says, why are doctors so resistant to testing for insulin instead of just A1C? Leah, does that make sense?
Yeah. So when you're looking at insulin and A1C, A1C is your glucose, right? And so I think this goes along the lines of thyroid, right? Your doctor won't run a full thyroid panel unless your TSH comes back as weird, right? But I have clients that will have normal A1C levels, but their fasting insulin is way too high and their insulin resistance. And so even though their A1C is within normal range, they're still struggling to lose weight. They're still having blood sugar issues. And so I think when they won't test the insulin, it's really just, again, that whole thing of it's the doctor's got to follow the order of the labs. First we test A1C. If it's normal, then we don't need to test, insulin. So I think, something that you can do is bring a really good case to your doctor and, come up to him and say, I know we tested this, but I'm having XYZ symptoms. I think I may be having an issue with my insulin. I would really like to see a panel because of, XYZ. And I think that is, a great place to start. If your doctor says no, you can very, very politely, I stress the politely part here, ask them to note in your chart that you asked for a lab and they refused. Because a lot of times with that document trail, they are much more inclined to help you out there.
All right. Hope that helps. Stephen, thank you for the question. One more question that came in was this. When do you leave your doctor? What signs should you be watching for to determine it's time to leave for another doctor?
I think the number one sign is if your doctor is dismissing your symptoms or gaslighting in the terms of, oh, that's just normal. Like you just need to stress less. You need to sleep more. Or the only option they're giving you is birth control or some type of medication when you're like, no, I really want to run some more labs to see what's going on. If they are dismissing you or literally just not taking 5 seconds to hear what's going on, I think it's time to find a new doctor. But again, remember, doctors are acute. They're there for acute care. They're there to put out the fire. A lot of your symptoms that you're dealing with are probably things before the fire actually starts. So you may literally just be barking up the wrong tree. I love conventional doctors. I have them on my personal health team, but they're not the ones that I go to, for every day or any type of symptom. I go to them for acute care. So I think remembering why you're going to them is very, very important. So you can set your expectations accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I remember having some heart issues and being there with a doctor and him saying, well, you're not having a heart attack right now. So that's basically what I can tell you, and so, that's what the ER is for. That's what the ER does. And then on to the cardiologist, and then they can dig a little bit deeper. But again, it only goes so far. Becky, anything else that you want to ask along these lines?
Yeah, so I definitely, I had an experience very similar to this where I was in my early 20s and I definitely was not living the way that I should have and not taking care of myself. And I went to the doctors, I would say like maybe 3 times in 6 months. And I was like, I just am not feeling right. I'm so tired all the time. And the doctor stopped and she looked at me and she says, you have been here like 3 times. I think it's time to put you on anti-anxiety medication. I think you're dealing with just paranoia. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is not at all what I'm dealing with, but now I might be. But then I said, can you look a little deeper? Can you help me out here? And she goes, well, it does say that, you have tested for mono 2 different times recently. And I said, well, that's kind of a big deal. Wouldn't that be why I'm so tired? She completely dismissed it. She was like, that's in the past, because I had all these blood panels run and I kept doing them. And so I'm testing positive for mono and they're not even telling me. And I feel like that's a big thing. So Leah, if something like that, mono, if you can, I'm sure you know a lot more about that and why that's a very popular thing that people struggle with and how that can create effects even long term. I feel like it can go on for a long time if it's not treated properly.
Mono, in my opinion, falls very similarly under like Epstein-Barr virus, where you can put it into remission. But a lot of times, when you are diagnosed with something like that, doctors just like, oh, every time you get stressed, you're just going to, have all these symptoms flare. You can never get rid of it. I recently had someone tell me that their doctor told them because they were diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus, they were just going to be tired for the rest of their life. I'm like, well, that's a depressing future, And then on top of that, you wonder why you get these diagnoses, and then you come back to your doctor and you are put on anti-anxiety meds because, your future literally looks so bleak in terms of no energy, no excitement. You're going to be dealing with these symptoms for the rest of your life. And it's really hard when you're in pain, and you have no energy to, pull up that joy in life to take care of your kids or take care of your family or whatever it is your duty is in life. It's really, really hard to do that. So in my opinion, all of these things, you need to dig a little bit deeper, right? What is reactivating it? And what kind of lifestyle changes do you need to make? And what kind of tools do you need to have in your toolbox in order to figure out how to support this long term so you can get your energy back? I don't accept the diagnosis. I don't accept the fact that you're just going to be tired and you're just going to deal with this for the rest of your life, because I have seen that change in my clients all the time. I recently had one with mono. And she, has her energy back, and she went cross-country skiing with her husband finally again. So you can get that back. I think you just have to not accept that this is my future and be okay digging a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Leah Brueggemann is with us. She is a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner, leahbrueggemann.com. We're getting pretty close to the break, so I'm going to wait. I've got a bit of a longer question that came in. I'll wait to the other side of the break to ask that to Leah. But let me put the phone number out there one more time. If you have a question or a comment you want to get in today, now's the time to do it. 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. I was trying to think of a spiritual analogy with all of this today, and not sure I've thought it through enough, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. And that is with respect to when you have the consequences of sin in your life, right? If you just kind of look at the symptoms and you just kind of look at the consequences, but you never really look at the root, and you never really get to the fact that I've committed this sin, right? And you're just trying to treat like the symptoms of the consequences of that sin. That doesn't seem to be a very wise choice, right? What you want to do is examine the conscience. You want to get to the root of it by God's grace. Okay, I committed this sin. I'm sorry for this sin. You hand it over to the Lord. If it's a mortal sin, certainly you go to the sacrament of reconciliation, confession, penance, sincerely sorry for that sin. The divine physician is there, Jesus, in the person of that priest in the confessional. When you're sincerely sorry and you lay it out and you don't hold back any other mortal sin that you might have, at least not purposely, when you do that and you make a good confession, then you can actually be healed of that sin. You can actually have that sin forgiven and removed. There may be still temporal consequences that remain. Usually there are that have to be still dealt with, but you've now dealt with the root of it, all right? And now going forward, you can avoid the near occasion of that sin. You can be attentive to not committing that sin again. I think there's something analogous to this when it comes to the physical life and health of the mind and body, that we want to get to the root of things. We want to make sure that we're seeing things clearly and addressing them at the very root. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
This is Life News Radio. I'm Jim Anderson. Nebraska has passed new legislation banning pain-capable abortions after 12 weeks gestation. Sponsors of the Preborn Child Protection Act settled on a 12-week ban after one Republican senator blocked a 6-week heartbeat abortion ban. FBI whistleblowers had their day before Congress, telling how they faced harrowing ordeals after approaching FBI oversight officials over problems in FBI field offices. Congressman Jim Jordan leads a committee investigating FBI overreach, including actions against pro-life activists. Senator Tommy Tuberville's efforts to overturn White House military abortion plans are gaining momentum. More Republican senators are signing on to delay or deny senior military appointments and commissions. This is Life News Radio. A culture of life has a rarely mentioned but very formidable enemy. Pornography is material that deceives its consumers into thinking that they possess beauty, while the reality is they are possessed by a lie. The first step may be to talk openly with your pastor or confessor, reject the lie, and recognize that a culture of life relies upon you. In other stories, there will soon be 2 candidates for president from South Carolina. Senator Tim Scott will soon join former governor and UN ambassador Nikki Haley in the 2024 presidential race. With pro-life Governor Glenn Youngkin calling for greater abortion restrictions, state Democrats are rolling out plans to make Virginia an abortion tourism state. And further examination of Planned Parenthood's annual report released earlier this month shows the lowest non-abortion care ever. Record-breaking declines in services like cancer screenings are matched by record-breaking federal funding. For pro-life headlines delivered to your email address daily, sign up at lifenews.com. This has been Life News Radio.
Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim and Becky Havens here, Wholeness and Healing Monday, fighting to cultivate the health of the whole person, mind, body, and soul. Topic today, what to do when doctors don't know, symptoms with no diagnosis. Last chance to get your call in, 1-877-511-5483, 1-877-511-5483. Great guest with us today, Leah Brueggemann. She is a Catholic wife and mother, a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner as well, who specializes in hormonal balance for women. LeahBrueggemann.com is the website. And here is something that came in from a listener who says the following. I had lots of joint pain in my mid-20s that my primary care practitioner could not explain through numerous tests at the time. Finally, I changed doctors. My new doctor sent me to a specialist, and through clinical diagnosis, it was declared that I had fibromyalgia, for which I was prescribed medication. I continue to struggle with it now in my mid-50s. He says that the person here saying the medication does help, but is not a cure. Overall, my fibromyalgia is best managed by good lifestyle choices, but nothing seems to be able to take it away once and for all. I would like to hear of any new suggestions of how others have dealt with this medical challenge, but also I feel that I've probably tried them all. Anything to add to this issue, Leah?
Yeah, I have a client right now with fibromyalgia, and it's really looking at other aspects here, not just fibromyalgia. And so, in her case, she also had, a lot of gut issues, and she also had something called mold illness, and her body just didn't move the toxins from mold very well. And yes, fibromyalgia is your diagnosis, right? And you are doing a lot of things lifestyle, but I would also encourage you to look a little bit deeper and see, is there something maybe causing and driving this inflammation, right? And so instead of just trying to control the inflammation and optimize the inflammation, is there something else that is triggering it, whether that is in your environment, whether that's in your nutrition, whether that's, an imbalance of something else in your body. So I would encourage you to look in other aspects, because when we get this diagnosis, we tend to get tunnel vision. Like you have the diagnosis of PCOS, you tend to just get tunnel vision and just focus on all things PCOS. And this is where someone else can come, you have this laser vision, and they can come out and look at it from this bird's eye view and put together different puzzle pieces, because there's probably something else that's also triggering fibromyalgia and inflammation in your body, and you just haven't found it yet. So yes, optimizing lifestyle is really, really important. Studies have shown that something like, gluten-free has been really, really helpful. And, I've also had people do really well in terms of using AHCC, which is a mushroom. That has been really helpful as well. But I would encourage you to dig a little bit deeper, maybe do an HTMA, which is a hair tissue mineral analysis. Have somebody explore some other avenues for you as to what may be driving this, opposed to just, focusing on, trying to optimize inflammation there.
All right. Thank you very much, Leah. Let's go to the phone lines real quick. We've got a caller on the line, Linda in New Hampshire. Linda, thanks for calling in. What is your question or comment today?
Hi. I have so many health problems, it's ridiculous. I have ulcerative proctitis and a lot of problems with ingrown toenails. I've been going for years to have procedures on them and corns, and it doesn't resolve. But lately I've been losing a lot of my teeth. They say the tooth is bad, it has to be pulled, it's infected or whatever, and I'm afraid I'm going to end up with no teeth. And for years now, I don't eat any GMO things. One of my daughters and I, we're careful about what we eat. We take supplements and all kinds of things, but I just feel like I'm falling apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, thank you for calling in, Linda. And Leah, do you have any comments for Linda?
Yeah. So one, you can take all of the supplements, but if you aren't absorbing them, if your body isn't utilizing them correctly, then, they're very expensive bowel movements, right? Because your body needs to be able to utilize them correctly. So that's my number one thing all the time is, I hear people say I eat really well and I take all these supplements, but I'm still not noticing XYZ. You are not what you eat. You are what you absorb. So you probably have to go farther upstream and see what is affecting absorption. Are you taking the right supplements for you? Or is it, I am having teeth issues, so I should probably be taking a calcium supplement, or I should probably be taking, omega-3 supplement, going very generalized. You might not be absorbing your calcium. Maybe you're needing cofactors for calcium absorption, which could be part of the issue here. And, one of the other things that I think is, can be really, really tricky is everybody's definition of eating healthy is so wildly different, And so it may be that you are just needing some simple tweaks in your nutrition, based off of maybe some lab work, and you could feel a whole lot better. Because again, it can be hard, because we think that we are eating really, really healthy, but it may just not be eating completely healthy for what you are needing in this stage of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Leah. And is there any way, where would you point Linda if she wants to learn more about how can she find out what are the right supplements for her? What does she do next?
Well, I would start first with actually looking into teeth remineralization. That is not my specialty, but there is a whole bunch of practitioners out there that do specialize in teeth remineralization and tooth health and really getting to the root of that. So I would, do some research to find somebody that specializes in that. And then my go-to test that I recommend, I think everybody should start with, is a hair mineral analysis, because when you're looking at blood work. For example, your blood always wants to stay at homeostasis. It wants to stay at homeostasis. That's its goal. So it pulls or pushes minerals into the tissues. And we will see things in our hair, in a hair test, before we see it in the blood for exactly that reason. So we can use it as more of a prevention mode, instead of just trying to treat things as they come up. You can actually see, hey, how's absorption going? You know, what is going on here? We can see what's going on more at a cellular level, which can be really helpful. So that would be my 2 cents.
Great. Yeah. And they're able to learn more about the hair test going to your website, leahbrueggemann.com. Is that right?
Yeah, they can shoot me a message, or honestly, there's a lot of practitioners out there that do hair mineral analysis. If you just literally pop it into Google too, you'll be able to find people that do that. I think it's just really important. Not all practitioners are created equal. I think there's multiple ways to skin a cat. So no matter which practitioner you decide to go with, I would make sure that you align with their values and their goals. Because there's a lot of us out there, and, you know, everybody has a different way that they go about things. So really just do your research, you know, maybe talk to past clients, look at testimonials, look at reviews, see how they do things, so that you make sure you align with them, because I'm not going to be a great fit for everybody. And I know there's other practitioners that maybe you aren't a great fit for. It just really depends.
Yeah, great advice. All right, Becky, I got to get you back in here. I know you probably have a ton to say. We only have a couple minutes, though. Some final comments for us today.
No, I really don't have much to say. I'm kind of just listening and taking it all in, and I feel like it's really great information. And I just wanted to share that, you know, so Leah, just kind of go through quickly. I know we're almost finished here, but say somebody is struggling with what you specialize in, which is women's, you know, hormone imbalance from all ages. It doesn't have to just be, you know, right smack in the middle. I mean, where can they go? How can they connect with you? What would be the best approach?
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram, so you can pop over there. My handle is Leah_Bruegg. But honestly, for a lot of free content, I would go to my podcast, which is Balancing Hormones Naturally. And we have a lot of info and a lot of guests on there that I think can really serve you.
All right, terrific. Yeah, thank you, Leah, so much for coming on, for all the good that you do. And let's all pray for one another. Let's pray for Linda, for all the callers, everybody who... all those who entered some questions into the email. That's mostly what we had today, but pray for Leah, her family, Becky, and myself, our family as well. We'll be praying for you, and we hope you have a very blessed evening. God bless you.